Hi there, I'm Tony from Pixel, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can install Python even if your PC is really locked down and you don't have admin rights. Pixel is an Excel add-in that lets you run Python code from inside of Excel, and this is a question I get fairly often where people really want to be able to combine Python and Excel at work, but they're unable to because they can't install Python because they don't have admin rights or their PC is locked down in some other way. So in this video, I'll show you a few different ways of installing Python without admin rights. Now, I should point out here that I'm not advocating for you to break any of your company's IT policies. This is really just to show you how it's possible, but you should check your IT policies before you do anything. And if you're not sure, then please do check with your admins before you do anything. Towards the end of the video, I'll also show you how you can use that freshly installed Python from within Excel as well using the Pixel add-in, so be sure to stick around for that. You'll find plenty of other videos on our YouTube channel about using Python and Excel together, so be sure to like and subscribe and check out the other videos on our channel. Okay, so the first method I'm going to show you is to download the installer from python.org. Now, if you can't run an installer on your PC, then don't worry, because in the next section I'm going to show you how you can install Python without using this installer, but it is the simplest method, so I wanted to show this first. If you go to the downloads page from python.org, you can download just the latest version, or you can go into all releases, and if you want to download a specific release, you can find it here. And then on that release page, towards the bottom, you'll find the actual files that you need. Now it's the Windows installer that I'm going to be using, and I'm going to choose the 64-bit installer here. Once that's downloaded, you can run the installer. Again, if you get an error at this point saying you can't run it, then don't worry, we are going to cover that in the next section. Now, the Python installer doesn't actually require admin access, so you may just be able to click install now and it may just work, so that's definitely worth trying first. One thing to point out is this option here, install launcher for all users, which is recommended. If you don't have admin access, I wouldn't recommend this because that does require admin access and that will definitely cause you an error when you try to install it. If you go into the customize installation section, you'll see a few more options. And one thing you can disable here is the PyLauncher, because depending on how your PC is configured and what's locked down, you may not be able to install that, so let's ignore that for now. And then when we go to next, we'll also not create shortcuts because, again, depending on how your computer's locked down, that may also cause a problem. You can see here we can customize where it actually gets installed to. Usually this path is fine because it's under your C users app data folder where you should have write access, but if you don't for any reason, you can change this path to somewhere that you do have write access. But I'm just going to go ahead and click install now, which will finish installing Python, and then we'll see how that works. Okay, so that's finished installing, and it didn't prompt me for admin permissions at any stage, so hopefully that's worked for you, and we'll see how we can use this now. Again, if you weren't able to download or run the installer, then we're going to show you another method in the next section. Now, the next thing to do is to try running Python, and we can do that from a command prompt. So I'll close this, and then to start a command prompt, you can just type cmd into the start bar. Now, the first thing we'll notice is if we try and run Python, then we'll get an error saying that Python's not recognized. And this is because we haven't put Python on the system path. The system path is what Windows uses to figure out where to find commands. We don't actually need to modify the path because one common restriction is that actually your PC might be locked down so that you can't change the path. But what we can do is if we go to the folder where we installed Python, if you remember from the installer, you'll see that that Python command that we want to run is actually here already. So I'm going to copy and paste this path into the command prompt window and do cd. So cd will change us into this folder, and then here I can see the files in this folder. So we've got this Python one here. And if I type Python now, I run this Python from this folder that I'm in. Another way of doing this would just be to drag and drop python.exe into this folder, into this window here, and it copies the entire path to python.exe, and I can run that and start Python in that way. Now, if you do have the ability to modify your path, then it can be worthwhile adding this folder to your path. You can do that by going to this PC, right-clicking, going into Properties, and then under Advanced System Settings, you'll see Environment Variables, and in here, Path. And if you can go in here and edit, you can then add your Python path, the path where your Python executable is located, into this list of folders, and the next time you start a command prompt, you'll be able to just type Python and it will use that one listed on the path. But let's assume that you can't do that for now. The next problem you might have is if you want to install other packages. So typically we would do something like pip install numpy to install the numpy package, but if I run that, you can see pip isn't recognized as a command. Now pip is actually installed in this scripts folder. So in here you can see that I've got this pip executable here, so I could in the same way drag and drop it into here and run pip install numpy like that, and then that would install it. Let me just cancel this because I want to show you another way to do it, which is using the same Python command I had before. Rather than running the pip executable, I can use a -m option to Python, which lets me run a Python package. And if I do Python -m pip, that will do the same thing as running that pip executable, but using this Python executable. This is it's useful to know about, because if you only have the Python executable on your path, then you don't need to keep worrying about adding the scripts thing and all that stuff. So I can do Python -m pip install numpy, and that'll work fine. And because I'm installing it all under my C users folder, then I don't need any admin permissions to do this. Now, if at this stage you get an error saying that you can't connect to the PyPy repo, you can't download the files needed to install this package, then at that point it probably is because the PyPy repo is blocked by your corporate firewall. And at that stage you really should ask your IT admins, because if they've blocked that, they've probably done that for a good reason, and you should check that you're not doing anything that's in violation of your IT policies. In some corporate or enterprise environments, you may not be able to run the installer that I've just shown you, or you may not even be able to download it in the first place. So I'm going to show you another method to install Python, but rather than using an installer, we're going to download a zip file and do it that way. So again, back on the python.org website, we'll go to the download section. Now don't just click the downloader here, because that will get the installer, which we can't use. Instead, go into all releases, choose the version that you want. Here I'm going to just select the latest version. And then down here under the files section, you'll see the installer that we used last time, but instead of that, we're going to use this Windows embeddable package. You've got the choice of the 32-bit or 64-bit package. I'm going to download the 64-bit package. When that downloads, you'll see that it's just a plain zip file. So you should, in most cases, be able to download that. Now, if we open the folder where it's been saved to, what I'm going to do is copy this into a folder that I created earlier under my documents folder. So here in my documents, I know I can write to this folder and I can create new folders and everything like that. So I can just drag and drop the downloaded zip file into my documents folder here, and then right click and say extract all, and that will unzip the zip file. I'm just going to say extract. And now once that's finished, you'll see I've got a folder with basically the full Python interpreter here, but without running an installer. So hopefully this will have worked for you as well. As we saw previously, it's this python.exe file which is actually the Python interpreter. So that's what we need to run in order to run the Python interpreter or to run a Python script. If I bring up a command prompt again and type Python, as before, we'll see that Python isn't a recognized command, and that's because this Python executable isn't on our system path. What we'll do instead is simply change the current folder to the folder where I've unzipped everything. So I'm just going to copy and paste this into here and say cd, so cd into that folder. Now when I type Python, that'll run the Python from this folder, and you can see that's working okay. Also, rather than cding into this folder, I could use the full path, and an easy way to do that is to drag and drop the Python executable into the command prompt here, and you'll see it copies the full path, and I can run Python that way too. Now the next problem that we'll have is how to run pip. So you remember from before when we used the installer, pip was installed as part of Python, but now if we type pip here, we get the not recognized command error. Again, that's not surprising because we haven't put it on the system path, but if we look in this folder here, we'll see that unlike previously, there's no scripts folder here. So with a previous installer, the pip command was installed under that scripts folder, but here we haven't got it at all because it's not included in this embeddable zip file that we've extracted. To install pip, we need to download a script from the internet, and it's called getpip.py. If you search for getpip, you should find it, but you can get it from bootstrap.pypa.io. Pypa.io is the Python packaging authority. So it's this file here, this getpip.py is the one that you want. So I'll right click on that and say save link as, and I'm just going to save that to my downloads folder as getpip.py. So now if I bring up the command prompt again, I can run that Python script as before. I run my Python command. I'm just going to drag and drop it in there, and then followed by that file that I downloaded. So again, I'm going to get the full path using that same trick of dragging and dropping. So if I go into here, downloads, find this folder, I can simply drag and drop this file into the command prompt window, and I need to add a space. So run Python followed by the getpip script. What that'll do is download the pip command and all the various bits and pieces that it needs to run, and then once that's finished, I should be able to use the pip package manager. You can see here it's given me some warnings saying that the folder that it's putting that pip executable in is not on the system path. That's not unexpected because we haven't changed that, but we'll work around that once it's finished doing what it's doing. Okay, when that's finished, you'll find that it's created a scripts folder. So if I look in here, or actually if I go back to the Explorer, it's a bit easier to see. It's created this scripts folder, which includes the pip executable, and it's also created this lib folder. And this lib folder is where the packages that we install using pip are going to get installed. So they're going to end up in this site packages folder. If we try running that pip script, we'll get something a bit surprising, which is an error saying there's no module named pip. Now the reason for that is that the embeddable Python interpreter that we've installed is configured to just use the packages that it's kind of bundled with. So we need to edit a file to tell it to use these other packages as well. If I just do a dir again to see what files are in here, you'll see there's a file called, in my case, python310.path or ._pth, and it's this file that we need to edit. It's just a text file, so I'm going to edit that using Notepad. So if I run Notepad and then that python310.pth, you'll see in here, this is a list of things that Python does when it starts up, basically. Essentially, these are a list of folders for where it's going to import code from. And here, this import site will import a special site module, which is what kind of configures Python to load packages from that site packages folder. So I'll do as it says and uncomment that, save that, Control S, close Notepad. And now if I go back and run pip again, it now doesn't complain about that missing module and everything kind of works as expected. So now I can do scripts pip install numpy as I did before, and that will download and install numpy into my Python folder, this Python310 embed AMD64 one. So because I've got full write access to this folder, I won't have any issues doing that. As before, if you get an error at this stage saying that you're unable to download the package, whichever package it is you're trying to install, then it's likely that it's a corporate firewall issue, and you should check with your IT admins just to understand kind of why they've blocked that. So there we go, we've got Python installed, and we didn't use an installer, and we haven't needed admin rights. And and just finally to show you, we can run Python and also import the packages like NumPy that we've just installed using pip, and everything works fine. So if you are working in an environment where you're not able to run installers, or you're not able to get local admin access for your machine, then there are still ways to install Python. Again, like not advocating going against your IT policies, but just to show you that you don't necessarily need admin in order to install Python. Now, right at the start of this video, I promised that I'd show you how you can use Python inside of Excel, so I'll do that now. There's plenty of other videos on our YouTube channel or on the website pyxll.com that will show you how to do that, but I'll just go through it really quickly here. So if I quit out of Python to begin with, now the first thing we need to do is pip install the Pixel package, and we know we can do that now by running python -m pip install PyXLL. So that will install the Pixel package, and now what that will do is install a Pixel script. So if we look in the scripts folder, let me just do dir scripts, you'll see that that's installed this new Pixel executable here. So we can run that to install Pixel, or we can use the same trick that I showed you with pip, where we can run Python and then -m, and rather than pip this time we do Pixel, so we can run the Pixel command line thing that way, and that tells us kind of the various options. So in this case I'll do install, just like that. Here it's asking if I've already downloaded the Pixel add-in. I haven't. If you have downloaded it, then you can say yes and tell it where it is here, but then you just enter your details, and then once you've done all of that, it will then download the Excel add-in and finish the installation for you. It's asking me where I want to install it. I think in this case I'll just create a local folder called Pixel, and it will install it there. And now it's just giving me a bit more information saying that I can run Pixel configure to check where it's installed, or Pixel status to check where it's installed, or Pixel configure to configure it. But if I look in here, you'll see that it's created this folder Pixel, which has got everything installed, so including the README file and the Excel add-in itself. And after running that installer, if I was just to open the examples Excel file, that'll load Excel. The add-in should be loaded because I've just installed that. And you can see here, yeah, so I've got the Pixel, the example tab is open. This is all configurable, and again, like, have a look at pixel.com for details of exactly what you can do with Pixel. But you can see everything looks like it's working fine. We've got user-defined functions here, which are Python functions, but called from Excel. So here, I can go in and calculate this Python function and see that I get results returned. I can do things like plotting, matplotlib and plotly and things like that in Python, but all with the results displayed in Excel, as well as things like real-time data functions. So you can see here, things ticking, and pandas. Oh, I haven't actually got pandas installed in this new one, but if I had pandas installed in this environment, then all of this stuff would work as well. Obviously, there's lots more to Pixel than I want to cover just in this video, but I hope this has given you some ideas of how to install Pixel at work if your computers are locked down in some way, or you can't run installers or anything like that. Always check to see your IT team might have a Python package which they have ready to install on people's computers, so you might need to ask them just to install Python for you. But if they don't, then hopefully this has given you some ways to get Python onto your PC. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos about Python and Excel.